Of course, the Spotify song isn't playing. Wouldn't that be my way of having you guys all join in the silence with me? Well, here we go. Let's try it again. So there's this beautiful playlist that Danielle Laporte put out this week. She might be in a similar space to me right now. This playlist is called Sweet Letting Go. And the song that I was wanting to play for you is a cover of Fleetwood Mac's Landslide. And it ties in so beautifully with the topic for today, which is exactly what I'm feeling like I'm going through. Like, I really don't have much control, and there's things falling down and breaking down and shifting. Literally, the land is shifting all around me, which feels like a landslide. And I am curious if you guys would be willing to go somewhere with me. There's been an interesting situation going on in my life pretty much since December. I started back into a relationship that I had left about almost 2 years prior. And it gave me that 2 years to do a lot of internal work, healing my relationship with my father and my ex-husband and the person who we agreed to break up. It was both of our decisions. In each situation, it was both of our decisions, except for obviously when my dad left when I was little. But it was basically a healing of me and how I relate to the masculine. And that's a whole nother topic for another day. But today, what I'm wanting to talk about is the cleaning up, cleaning house, speaking up, asking for what we want, and the beauty in knowing that that is what we're here to do, is to ask for what we want and need. It doesn't mean that the other person will do what we want and need. And that's when we need to take a long, hard look at, is this something I'm willing to stay in this relationship for? Actually, the week before, there had been a series of not so happy communications between my sister and I over some family stress and caretaking of my mother, our mother, and the falling of a lot of that responsibility onto my younger sister. She has stepped up beautifully since I, some years ago, said, listen, I'm going through divorce. I cannot be you guys' big sister and take care of everybody in that family as well as taking care of my own. And so I'm stepping back, which has given her an opportunity to really step up and be the emerging matriarch of our family. And I really appreciate that, but maybe don't tell her enough. And it came down to some loud words and tears and hard feelings for a week or longer. And we finally cleared the air Sunday night. And a lot of things that needed to be said that had not been said. Asking for what we want, which I kept stressing. If I just knew what it was you wanted. I didn't feel like that was clear between us all. So we all got kind of clear. What did my stepdad need and want to take care of mom? What did he not want? And what did Aaron need? And what do I need? And how do we want to play this game together of taking care of mom? And at the same time, I was feeling very alone in my love relationship. I purposely last December had, after reading the Pussy book from Mama Gina, I really aligned very much in her definition of what she wanted in a lover. And it felt perfectly in alignment with me. She had been with a guy that was so amazing, and the sex was amazing, and he held her and met her in all of her glorious growing and expansion, yet they couldn't be together. I mean, it was very volatile, and she knew that it wasn't good full time. They tried living together, it just didn't work. And then they tried being apart for a few years, and they were both miserable. So they came back together, and they put together something on a part-time basis where it's ideal for both of them at this point, last I heard, according to the book. And I shared that in January when I got back from my trip to Australia over the holidays. And John had done quite a bit of house sitting for me and caring for he tuned my piano and took care of my cat some, and was very in my space while I was gone. And he had just kind of broken up with someone else, the woman he'd been with in the couple of years we'd been apart. And he asked, do you want to share a bottle of wine and talk and catch up? I'd like to hear about your trip and just see how you're doing. So I mentioned, this is what I'm looking for. I'd like a lover. I mean, the French women, European women take lovers, older women take lovers, and they're not somebody that moves in, that you have a future with, that you talk about, growing old and retiring together. They're not someone, but they're someone whose company you enjoy immensely, who you share a lot. And there's definitely an intimacy that is not found with others. And it suited me perfectly. I wanted to have time to focus. I mean, I've got that entrepreneurial mindset, and it's important that I know that I've been told by other men that I've gone out with in the last few years that I don't really have much time or focus on a relationship, a serious relationship. And that doesn't work for many older men. They want to, get married or, have there be a commitment, and they have a lot more time than I do. I'm not in that space of retirement. I'm in business building, creative mode, and that doesn't work for me. So I suggested, this is what I'm looking for. I know that we got along sexually. I know that spiritually and emotionally and intellectually we were a match when it came to really deep and meaningful conversations. And we both like walking and hiking, and there's a lot of things that we do, playing the piano and singing. We like cooking the same kind of meals, a lot of things in common. And I said, would you be interested in doing this beyond friendship, including sex, on a part-time basis with me? And he thought about it, and he came back and said, yeah, I think that would be perfect for me right now as well, as I get used to retirement and look at how to use my time in a creative way. And that's where we started. And it didn't really stay that way. And this is, I think, what happens when the expectations are not super clear. And we would come back together and talk about, this is not working. This is not enough or too much, or I don't want your stuff in my house. I want to have clarity. I want to have the freedom to say this week, this works for me, but next week it may not. And there was we would do this on a regular basis, and it worked for the most part. There were introductions of different situations into this mix because it wasn't enough for him in terms of female companionship. Anyway, to make a long story short, it got to the point where I said, here's the deal. I have a couple of deal breakers. I require, ask, need these things. And I laid them out pretty clearly, I thought. And that always worked every time for a week or so. I felt heard. I felt connected. I felt like we had something that was working. And it just kept getting messier and messier and messier. And I said, I don't know how to navigate this. This is getting too unwieldy for me. And he said, can we just agree that our friendship is more important than anything else? And even if you decide that we're not going to keep this lovership relationship going, that we will keep our friendship at 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 absolute minimum. And I agreed. We had kind of what was called a no exits on that I couldn't just kick him out and say, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Goodbye. Leave. And boy, did it come close a couple times to want to do that. I would get so angry with him. And that's when my little girl would come out and I couldn't speak clearly. And this is the point of this conscious letting go. A clear, where I'm clear within me what it is I need and want. And when I'm clear, there's the other person is at choice. They either agree or don't agree, or we bring up a middle ground of where can we negotiate and is this possible? Or we agree to do something else, or we agree to change the boundaries, or if you will. And I don't mean to be unwieldy on this, but we just really finished a conversation that was not, I wouldn't even know if I'd call it a conversation. A lot of yelling, a lot of emotion, a lot of hurt feelings. And it wasn't very conscious. And that was my goal this morning. I knew the conversation was coming today. I put it off and put it off. And when he finally faced me, I couldn't run from it anymore. I said, I really just want to finish this podcast and talk about consciously cleaning house, consciously letting go of what no longer serves me, letting go of things that I believe are holding me back. And in some ways, I do feel that our relationship has been an anchor that kept pulling me back into who I was. It pulls me back into what I feel I can and cannot do at a much younger age. And I feel a lot less powerful. And that's not always true, because when things are really good with us, I feel very powerful. But it hasn't been that way. And when the juice stopped flowing in that area, the sex was still good and we still enjoyed time together. It just wasn't enough to feed me, to nourish me, to really, so that I could feel like I was really being seen and held by the masculine. I just had to say, this isn't working. And I am very deeply attracted to someone who is a visionary and who is doing their own deep work and creating big things on their own. And I felt like that was the other thing, is that he was just answering the call and fixing things for everybody else in their life, for his aunt, his daughter, his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, all of these people. He was in the process of helping them out. And I wasn't getting the attention that I needed because he was so busy being literally a handyman to all of these people. And I think maybe I'm not so good at sharing. Maybe that's it. And maybe I deserve to have somebody whose focus is more on me. All I know is that the last few weeks I have felt more and more alone and less important. And I said to my dear confidant, friend, colleague, and client, Carmen, I said, I think I need to change things. I think I need to end things. And she said, well, then do it, because I think he's part of the reason why you're not moving forward. And I know girlfriends are really good at wanting to help. And I also value that people can see things that I can't see. And there's a reason why I have not wanted to bring him around some of my friends and back into my family situation. And there's a reason why I didn't tell a lot of people that I was with him on a part-time basis at all, even. Because I felt like I was going backwards. I don't feel that I can grow with him. I had actually an energy person, and we did my Akashic records together years ago. And she said, you guys have been together in so many lifetimes, and that's why you have such a comfort level together. And that's why the sex is so fabulous. And that's why the conversations are so easy. And you can be yourself so much with him because you have known each other in many, 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 many lifetimes in a variety of relationships. And at the same time, you are not really that great for each other. It's like you have the engine and you have the car, and the car is beautiful and everything works except the engine. And when it goes to get going and to turn over and start leaving that spot, we're really good if we stay in one place. And there's been way too much change in the last few years. I have grown and changed so much that I'm beginning to feel like I need somebody who meets me at this new level. Or maybe, and I love this idea, I kind of have seen a picture of it, of someone who's extending their hand to me to step up into my next level of beingness, of expansion, of Deborah-ness. Wow. So now I'm just like rambling, and I don't mean to. I just wanted to share with you the difference between waiting until it gets to a place where it didn't come out so well, and also asking for the right time for it to come out so well. I think that if we would have had the conversation tonight, if we would have had the conversation this morning at sunrise going for a walk, that's always better to my system for me to process and be more embodied and be more connected on all levels when I'm in a walk in nature. And that's when we've had our most, connecting, and some of our deepest arguments have been when we've been walking, because I think we're really real with each other. And I felt like he was talking to me, and I was trying to get this stuff written for this newsletter, and it wasn't good time. And I even said, this isn't good time, and he didn't honor that. And he would go to try to leave, and then I would yell something at him, and then he would come back upstairs. It was so much drama, and a lot of it not very conscious. And I'm not very proud of myself, because that's the second time this week that I have lost it and shown up in all my old stories. I played the old story, the martyr, the big sister who had to do it all, the Cinderella kind of story with my sister and my and her boyfriend and my father, who were in the room the other night. And that was, it felt ugly and old, and it was like the old script, and I couldn't stop it. It was like I was on autopilot. And I felt it again today, that I dropped back into my little girl self with Dad leaving. My father left when I was really little, like 2, and didn't come back for a long time. And the last time I remember him leaving for good is he had come and visited me at my grandparents', and he left, and I was about 4. And I remember that door closing. And so the door closing is a really big analogy for me. And I know that sometimes we have to close the door on something before something new can come. And I thought I wanted to have my cake and eat it too, that I could have a lover and have a male friend, that a companion, that it could help to fill the time until the right ideal mate came along. And that wasn't fair to him, to me, or to the person I am to meet. And I see that now. And I also see that I need to step into my mature self and rewrite my profile and put it out there now to tell the world, this is who I am and this is what I'm looking for, and be very clear. There's no reason to try to make anything prettier or less pretty than it is. It's already pretty amazing. I'm already pretty amazing. And it's time to show up with all of my truth and brilliance and beauty and not hide it. And I'm going to continue to clean house, continue to let go, to continue to burn away, release, whatever, that all of the pieces that just don't fit me now. I just got some new clothes because I felt like 90% of the stuff in my closet didn't even look like me, feel like me. It didn't fit me, who I am now and who I want to show up as in the world. And so it's time for all of that to come out of the closet and go away. And there's some things in my home that used to be so important to me that are just not. So, every day or two I'm filling up another box, and it goes in my car to go to, an immigrant family, or I know there's other people that are collecting things to send to Puerto Rico, and now all of the people in California that have been displaced from their homes with many of their things totally burned up. I don't know who would need or want these things, but I'm consciously collecting to send them away from me because I don't need them anymore. And that brings me to the close of this conversation, one-sided as it is, in that there is something sacred in letting go. There is something beautiful in the desire for what's coming, and in the patience and the knowing that it is to be so. And I think so often we don't want to be alone, and we don't want to feel lonely, and we don't want to be in that space where there's an opening for the new to come in. And clearing the way for that opening to be very evident is what I'm in the process of right now, which feels way more conscious than my conversation from the last hour. And I would hope that if any of this comes across, these crucial conversations have been showing up, whether it's in a TEDx talk or a post on LinkedIn or in a conversation with another executive director on how do we find that intersection of consciousness, leadership, the talk about race and white privilege and white supremacy. We need to get all of that out on the open. And it's scary, and it's courageous conversations for sure. And to break down these divides that we have, that by only getting our news source from one direction, from only hanging around with people who are just like us, from not reaching across the aisle, to use the government analogy between the two major parties. We need to do more and more and more of that. Talking to people who make us a little uncomfortable, reaching beyond who we are to get to know more of who we can be by being around people who stretch us. And I'm ready to step up into that next place. And I'm declaring it now. And I've asked for it for the space with John. And I've been clear what I want and need and can do and will do with my family. And little by little, as I declare and I express and I share and I am authentically clear in what makes sense and what doesn't, I feel such a sense of peace. All of that anxiety and that ugly, messy nervousness that was really running through my system earlier, it's kind of calmed. And so I'm going to close, if I can figure out how to get this landslide song to play, because that's where I feel like I am right now. And I'm, ready to just see where the current takes me. So, and Spotify and I just are not getting along very well here. and my neighbors are home from school as they announce themselves. All right. Well, I will include the link in the newsletter. It's not wanting to do anything at this moment, so I apologize for that. But thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.